Hello, my name is John Bosco, but feel free to call me JB as my friends do. Welcome. It's another day for me to interact with you. Um, if you're a returning subscriber to my channel, thank you so much for always trusting and visiting me. If this is the first time visiting my channel, thank you. I would encourage you to go ahead and click the subscribe button, like, share, refer your friends about I Need Scrum Master YouTube channel. Okay, so today we're going to look at a very important aspect of Scrum, which is the analysis of the three pillars of Scrum. Scrum is a very, very flexible, agile framework, but there are fundamentals of Scrum. And those fundamentals of Scrum are what really gives Scrum a unique perspective in terms of project management. So today we're going to try to look at those three pillars of Scrum. I'm going to analyze them, and then we can take a look at how it can help a Scrum Master and even non-Scrum Master, or even someone who is not among the Scrum team member, to be able to collaborate effectively in project management or in software development. With that, I'm going to pull up some information and then we can get started. All right, so like I said, we're going to take a look at understanding the three pillars of Scrum. In other words, I'm going to give my own understanding, analysis, interpretation, and application, application in terms of project management or in terms of software development. At each point in the analysis, you're always free to put, make a comment, either if you agree with me or disagree with me, or in what direction you think that might be very helpful to you. For today, first of all, we're going to take a look at empiricism, understanding what empiricism is, explanation of the three pillars of Scrum, implementation of the three pillars, and using the three pillars to improve team performance. All right. There are key things every Scrum Master, or there are key requirements, or there are key things that Scrum Masters are required to have and exhibit. One of the skills that every Scrum Master should have is the ability to observe and make notes. Empiricism. Empiricism is a philosophical concept, and according to the Scrum Guide, it says knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is observed, right? So there are different avenues we capture knowledge, or we be able to exhibit knowledge, or we be able to get information. So one of them is about empiricism, right? So every Scrum Master, especially an excellent Scrum Master, should be able to observe, make notes. There are things you observe about your team members, things they say, the things they don't say. How do we make a conclusion, or how could an excellent Scrum Master make a conclusion or be able to encourage or make a suggestion? By experience, having facts, supporting with evidence. And that goes with empiricism. Empiricism appears several times in the Scrum Guide that shows us how important this concept is in terms of Scrum. In fact, an excellent Scrum Master, I will have to re-emphasize that, an excellent Scrum Master should be able to have empiricism at his or her beck and call. Through empiricism, it helps to reduce waste, right? So an excellent Scrum Master should be able to know when to step in and when to step out because of the way he or she observes the performance or the progress of the team, right? So we don't make false claims. An excellent Scrum Master be able to offer suggestions based on what he or she must have observed. And an excellent Scrum Master should be a keen observer. A keen observer is a key word there. So this goes back again to that aspect of empiricism, right? In an interview, for example, someone who is being interviewed on what of the soft skill or what of the technical skill a Scrum Master should have, empiricism should be one of them. All right, so now let's take a look at these three pillars of Scrum. I was able to pull up this image so that I can be able to really explain the three pillars of Scrum. The three pillars of Scrum are Transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Transparency, inspection, and adaptation. What does transparency mean? I'm just going to give an overview about transparency, inspection, and adaptation. And as we progress in this analysis, I'm going to give an in-depth explanation or analysis on that. Through transparency, team members, not even non-team members, can be able to know what is going on, right? To be able to know what is going on. Another word we can use to associate with empiricism is visibility, right? There should be visibility across the board or across the team performance or across the progress of the sprint. Inspection, check your work as you are doing it, right? So it's not like in waterfall where the team has to wait till towards the time that they are shipping to the clients, right? Now they can be able to say, okay, let's monitor or let's inspect or let's check what we have done. No. In Scrum, as the development work is going, they are always inspecting, even during the development, even the testing, integration. I mean, every time at each stage of the development work, there is always inspection, right? There is this idea of assessing, there is this idea of examining. Adaptation, adjusting the requirements. So another word for adaptation is adjustment. Change is a constant factor when it comes to software development or projects. How team members can be able to manage and coordinate that change is through adaptation. So that is why the co-founders of Scrum, Mike, Jeff Sunderland and Ken Schwaber, was able to organize this information in such a way that however, each company, each organization can be able to use these 3 pillars of Scrum in order to manage their projects. All right, so let's take a more deeper look at these 3 pillars of Scrum. Like I said, the first one was an overview. So now let's dive into more highlighting key information. The purpose of this is to give you more explanation and analysis. Transparency, like I said, is another way of saying visibility. We want to make sure that there is nothing that is being hidden, right? Every work is being projected out there, right? According to the Scrum Guide, it says, according to the Scrum Guide, it says that the emergent process and work must be visible to those performing the work as well as those reviewing the work, right? So it is necessary that everybody, even if you are not a Scrum team member, stakeholders, clients can be able to know what the team or each stage or how the team is, progressing during the sprint, right? Everything that has to do with the project has to be very visible to everybody. Someone, it says oversharing. And then I do remember I was discussing with somebody some time ago, and then we were able to not argue in terms of who is going to win, but to look at one of the weaknesses of Scrum is this idea of, making information too visible, right? So oversharing, it could be one weakness of Scrum, right? So we want to make sure that we create that visibility to everybody on information radiator. One of the information radiators is using the Scrum board. The Jira is a software development tool. In the Jira, the team can create a Scrum board so that we can know what and how and when work is in to do, in progress, and even in the done column. In that way, we can know the progress. We can know we can be able to see visible. We can have that visibility of what and what is happening, right? And who is dealing with what. That is why, again, another way a Scrum Master can create visibility is using the Gantt charts, right? So we're able to tally those information together, and then we can be able to demonstrate to the stakeholders or whoever requires that as of when necessary of what is happening, among the Scrum team. The PO, the Scrum Master, and even developers are involved in this visibility aspect of the Scrum. Is it important to have transparency? Well, there are key reasons to create transparency in Scrum, and some of the key reasons include to establish trust. Trust is in fact, is a sine qua non to have trust. By sine qua non, I mean it is a high importance to have visibility in Scrum. So trust and communication. By creating visibility, there is this idea of trust, and then we can communicate more efficiently. And then team's velocity is known, right? Velocity is about the amount of work team members can accomplish each sprint. By creating visibility again, or transparency, it helps to reduce risk. We know in Scrum there are 3 types of risk. We have the product risk, we have the social risk, and we have the technical risk. And the product owner is the one who manages the product risk. The social risk is being managed by the Scrum Master, and then the technical risk, as the name suggests, is being managed by the developers. So by creating transparency, there is high chance of managing or reducing even project risk. All right. The other thing is through transparency, there is this reduction in the loss of time and resources. Through transparency, again, there is high chance of making good decisions, right? So, and then not creating transparency again has its own danger, right? So I can't emphasize the dangers of not creating visibility among the Scrum team or even across the organization. Inspection. So now we have been able to look at visibility. How about inspection, right? So inspection, another name for inspection we can say is assessment or evaluation, right? So it's a way to diagnose. Therefore, through inspection, we are diagnosing the products, people involved, process, artifacts, and even tools. The reason, in part, why the Scrum team deem it necessary to do that is to be able to make sure that we can, not only that we can be able to accomplish the deliverables, but also we can make sure that the customer satisfaction is kept in check, right? So we want to make sure that the people who are doing the work are always, assessed, keeping in check to know how we can support them, right? The product itself, if there is any kind of change, the process, right? Let's say that is why during the Scrum sprint retrospective, the team can be able to reflect on how the Scrum process was able to help them, or if there are things they need to adjust or need to be able to readjust. And even the artifacts or even the tools. Let's say there are things or any of the tools that is developers are using there is a kind of malfunction. So through that inspection, they can be able to know how to navigate that problem. Right, so in Scrum, there are times when it is necessary to inspect. And that goes again to the idea of the Scrum ceremonies, right? So the daily stand-up, the sprints, the sprint planning, the sprint review, the sprint retrospective, right? So these are the times when it is very, very necessary to inspect. For example, the daily stand-up, a 15 minutes time box meeting where the Scrum team can be able to inspect on how much they are moving towards the sprint goal to know if they are really on course or off course. What does the Scrum Guide have to say about the inspection? According to the Scrum Guide, it says, quote, the Scrum artifacts and the process towards agreed goals must be inspected frequently and diligently to detect potentially undesirable variances or problems. So Scrum Guide kind of emphasizes the fact of if we are going to accomplish the goal of each sprint, then it is necessary to inspect as the sprint progresses. Right? Through inspection, we can be able to capture feedback. Feedback is a necessity. In fact, it is a high value in Scrum, right? The secret is to produce excellent product quality. We have to inspect at all times and when necessary. Is it important to have inspection? Obviously, just like we have its importance in transparency, so it is also necessary to have to inspect at all times and when necessary. Some of the key reasons include it creates visibility to challenges in the product or process, right? And it goes again back to when we talk about transparency. By inspection, it prevents repetition of work, right? So, for example, during the daily stand-up, what I used to do in my organization is to be able to look at the issues that have been created, user stories, tasks, whatever it is, And we can know if there is any repetition of the task. In such a way, we can be able to not waste time repeating or reworking those tasks that has been already been done by a developer, right? So through inspection, we reduce errors, right? So errors are bound to happen in software. So through inspection, it helps to carve off, those errors. Right, so opportunity for team to adapt to unforeseen project circumstance. There are things that might not be foreseen or that might not be put into consideration or that couldn't be seen before the start of the project. But through inspection, we can be able to manage such circumstances, right? The secret, there is no one inspector in Scrum. What does that mean? There is no one person that is delegated to inspect. Everybody is involved in this inspection. The Scrum Master, the product owner, the developers, project managers, people who are working towards around that project are all involved in that inspection. Adaptation, the last but not the least, right? It's not the least among the three pillars. Another word I could think of when it comes to adaptation is adjustment. For some people, they would say is applied change, right? It is adjustment to a process or product. If we have to go back again to the 12 principles, to the 12 agile principles, it talks about change, right? Welcoming change at each time of the development process, whether it is in the early or at the towards the end of the project, right? So, and how can team be able to contend that change requirement? It's about adaptation, adjust, right? And what does Scrum Guide have to say about that? It says, quote, if any aspect of a process deviates outside acceptable limits, or if the resulting product is unacceptable, the process being applied or the materials being produced must be adjusted. All of these go back again about customer satisfaction. We want to make sure that we are satisfying the customer, right? And at the same time, we want to make sure that we are producing quality products, quality software. Excellence is a key word there. So in order to be able to make that excellence, right, it is necessary to be able to, adjust to the change that do happen. Teams should be self-organized, self-managed in order to execute changes as soon as it's discovered. What that means is stakeholders should be able to create the environment and empower the team to be able to do and to be able to manage that, adapt to those change, right? What that means again is teams do not always have to rely on the authority of the stakeholders in order to be able to adapt, because they have that power or they have that how position, they can always adjust as of when necessary. All right, in order to summarize all of these, so this table, right, kind of gives us an overview of how to or when to inspect and how to adapt in the Scrum events, right? So I kind of mentioned about those events, the sprint planning, the daily stand-up, sprint review, and retrospective. So how can Scrum team inspect, or when can Scrum team inspect, and what can Scrum team inspect, right? And that goes again to that adaptation. So the Scrum team, for example, in the sprint planning, they can always inspect the product backlog, increments, actions of the sprints, definition of done. And then in adaptation, they're always adapting towards the sprint goal, forecasting how they can be able to meet the deliverables, and then sprint backlog, right? So I'm going to allow us to take a look at this table, right? So this kind of this table gives us that idea that adaptation, transparency, and inspection are what holds Scrum very firm when it comes to software development. All right, so that's where we're going to stop for today. I hope you find that very fulfilling. If you have any question or you need more clarification, please don't fail to comment in the comment section, and then I'll try as much as I can to respond to you as soon as I can. If you are looking for a place to, have your Scrum class idea, I Need Scrum Master is the perfect place for you to do that. just visit www.ineedscrummaster.com, and then you can be able to schedule a one-on-one consultation free with ineedscrummaster.com. Or if you take a look at the website and then you are sure about what you want, you can, book your class, or you can also email info@ineedscrummaster.com, and then you'll be able to be guided through on the process. Right. So thank you so much for always trusting me. If this is the first time, please, I encourage you to click the subscribe button there, refer, share with your colleagues, friends, families, and then let us keep scrumming. All right. That's where we're going to stop here today, and then I'll see you again next time. For the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful time. Bye for now.